Hello everyone, I'm Alex Sykes, and today on Alex Autos, we're out here taking a look at the all-new 2015 Kia K900. As unlikely as you might think it, the K900 is actually Kia's answer to the Lexus LS, the BMW 7 Series, Mercedes-Benz S-Class, Jaguar XJ, and Audi A8. This is actually a full-size, full-on luxury car. The K900 takes Kia's tiger nose design language to the next level. That's what they call this particular grille right here. It is a little bit reminiscent of BMW's kidney grille, although it is a little bit more open as well. It also reminds me a little bit of the Infiniti Q70 sedan. Right over here we have standard steering LED headlamps. These are LED high beams and LED low beams, and somewhat unusually for the luxury market, these also steer. It's relatively common in the luxury market for auto manufacturers to upgrade you from HID to LED headlamps and then remove the steering functionality, and it is nice that Kia has kept that. Right down here we have standard LED fog lamps. We have very nicely integrated parking sensors right up front. Our model has the optional adaptive cruise control system, and that places the sensor right behind this portion. We also have a blank on the vehicle to give it a more balanced look. And then our model also has the optional surround camera system, which gives you this little camera right up front. In terms of overall dimensions, the K900 stacks up very nicely against the competition. At 200.6 inches long, this is about the same length as a Lexus LS in short wheelbase form, also a BMW 7 Series in short wheelbase form. There is no such thing in America as a short wheelbase Mercedes-Benz S-Class, so that Mercedes is a decent amount longer than this. The K900 is also longer than the mid-size luxury sedan entries, with which this also logically competes based on price tag. So this is going to be longer than something like a Lexus GS, Mercedes-Benz E-Class, or BMW 5 Series. This is also about 2 inches longer than a Chrysler 300. Most of that difference is right here in the rear passenger accommodation, because we have a much larger door. We also have more rear seat legroom. The length of the K900 makes the overall format a little bit deceptive because it does look like it has a very rakish coupe-like profile, but we still have a decent amount of headroom in the rear, and that's just because of how long this vehicle is. We have a relatively short trunk lid, even though we do get a very large trunk. The design on the rear end is definitely simple, but it's also elegant. We have these large LED tail lamps right here, backup lamps integrated in this chrome strip right below the Kia logo. We have a backup camera right over here. We have integrated exhaust tips on the bottom, and again, this only comes one way with a V8 engine, so there's only one look to the tail. Overall, I give the K900 8 out of 10 points when it comes to exterior style. I find the design very attractive. Let me know what you think down there in the comment section down below. Now, a number of my Facebook commenters over at facebook.com/AlexandAutos thought that the design was too boring, too derivative, too copycat with the other luxury players in the segment. Looking at them, most of the luxury players except for that brand new S-Class do look very similar, and I do find some very similar styling cues to this and the Lexus and the BMW 7 Series, but I don't really think that's a bad thing, and I think that Kia has put enough of their own style in this vehicle for me that the design is very attractive. Under the hood of the K900, we have a 5-liter naturally aspirated V8 engine. It produces 420 horsepower and 376 pound-feet of torque. It does feature gasoline direct injection. This is mated only to an 8-speed automatic transmission that's manufactured by Kia and Hyundai, and it sends power to the rear wheels only. Now, this large V8 engine is truly what separates the K900 from the near luxury competition as well as the mid-sized luxury competition. Because if you take a look at, for instance, the Lexus GS sedan, it is a V6 only sedan. And if you take a look at the Acura, V6 only again. Volvo has a 4 and a 6-cylinder engine option at the moment in the S80, and Lincoln and Cadillac are 6-cylinder engine options only. Now, most of those near luxury competitors are also front-wheel drive by default, and this is a rear-wheel drive only vehicle. Fuel economy for 2015 comes in at 15 miles per gallon city, 23 highway, and 18 combined, because this vehicle is heavy as you would expect out of a full-size luxury sedan. 4,555 pounds in the base model, 4,643 pounds in the up-level model with all the options. Front seat comfort in our particular model comes in at 8 out of 10 points. That's because we're in the optional 16-way power seat version, which has a 4-way power lumbar support, 2-way power headrest, and a 2-way power adjustable thigh cushion extension. Now, the passenger seat over here gets 7 out of 10 points because it loses some of the adjustability of the driver's seat. So this passenger seat up front doesn't have the 4-way adjustable lumbar support, and it doesn't have the extending thigh cushion, even though it does have a 2-position seat memory. We also have a tilt telescopic electric steering wheel, and this is memory linked, and it has an easy exit function where it moves the steering wheel in and the seat rearwards to help you enter and exit the vehicle more conveniently. Now, 7 or 8 out of 10 points for this category means that these seats are very, very comfortable. It just means that when you upgrade to something like a Mercedes-Benz S-Class or BMW 7 Series, there are optional seats that are yet more comfortable than these. I would rank these seats very comparably to the base seats in the BMW 7 Series or the Lexus LS in terms of general comfort. However, if you upgrade to the BMW Sport seats, there's a wider range of adjustability. They're more comfortable. You can also get massage and anti-fatigue options in other full-size luxury entries in this category that you can't in the Kia K900. The top-end seats in the Mercedes-Benz S-Class and the BMW 7 Series will get 10 out of 10 points. Top-end seats in the Jaguar XJ and the Audi A8 will get 9 out of 10 points. And then the entry-level seats in pretty much all those other entries are going to get around 8 out of 10 points. The Lexus LS also scores between 7 and 8 out of 10 points, depending on which seat option you get. Moving to the back, rear seat comfort easily comes in at 9 out of 10 points. In our particular model, we have the optional power adjustable rear seats. I'm going to scoot this as far forward as it possibly will go to show you the most reclined motion of this seat right there. And then we have the most upright as well. There's also an auto button on this door, so that way the seat will automatically move to this upright position to allow you easier entry and exit to the vehicle. If I fold down the center armrest here, I also have four-way adjustable lumbar support and heated and cooled rear seats in our upgraded top-end K900 model. Most notably, this has more combined legroom than something like a Lexus LS or a BMW 7 Series, and that would be front legroom and rear legroom put together. That means it's going to be easier to put tall people in the front and tall people in the back, or child seats right here in the back and tall people up front. If you want to know how well child seats fit in the K900, go ahead and click that link at the bottom of your screen. Again, we're in the upgraded K900 with the optional reclining rear seat backs. We also get that four-way lumbar support that I talked about earlier, and I can also adjust the front seat position from the back seat right here on the center console. Because the K900 has rear passenger luxury accommodations in mind in terms of design, you'll notice this front passenger seat moves all the way forward till it's practically touching the dashboard. That allows the driver to actually see the side view mirror while the rear passenger has the most amount of rear legroom. You'll notice in this outboard seat I have about 1.5 inches or 2 inches of headroom. I was able to put a 6'4", 6'5" passenger right back here in the rear without too much of a problem. However, if I scoot over to the middle seat, you'll notice that this is really a solid 4-passenger vehicle with sort of an emergency seat right here in the middle. I would have to sit forward like this in order to use this middle seat, or lean back and have my head cocked to one side. I really don't fit back here in the middle seat. Let's start out our interior tour in the back. Because we're in the top-end K900, we do have these 6-way adjustable rear headrests. They have a butterfly function right there. They also tilt and they go up and down. We have the power rear shade right here, and then we have manual rear shades on the side windows, right like that. Folding down the armrest in the rear, you can see all the controls we have over here. We have our climate controls over here, fan, auto knob right over there as well. We have heated and cooled seats. If we move on over to the rear door panels, we have a stitched leather upper portion right here. We have pleather right here in the middle. It's also soft touch, a very softly padded armrest right back here. Door lock and unlock buttons for the rear passengers, auto window. These are the controls for reclining the rear seat back. We also have an auto button, again, that helps you return the seat to its most upright position for easier entry and exit in the vehicle. Speaker on the door, but you will find harder plastics lower in the door, and then again, soft touch plastics right below that hard touch plastic. This is part of Kia's mission to bring the Kia K900 costs down. You will notice certain hard plastics throughout the interior that you won't find in some of the competition, but they are very strategically placed, so it's in an area where you probably will never touch it. Our top-of-the-line model has this enormous 2-pane panoramic sunroof, and we also have an Alcantara imitation suede headliner. So if you look at this closely, this is imitation suede right here. You really don't want real suede in a vehicle. No vehicle out there has real suede in a headliner because it just doesn't stand up to the heat inside a vehicle. Moving on up to the front seats, we have height adjustable seatbelts for both the driver and the front passenger, and a 4-way adjustable headrest. You'll notice that the 6-way adjustable headrests are reserved strictly for the rear passengers. Moving over to the front door panels, we have very similar construction to the rear doors. We have leather up here, pleather down below, real wood trim right in between, soft touch armrest, and then hard plastics below that soft touch armrest, little storage cubby there at the bottom of the door, and soft touch plastics again at the bottom of the door. You'll notice that this passenger seat doesn't have the same range of motion as the driver's seat, although it is heated and cooled. Moving over to the dashboard, we again have more stitched leather going on up here. This is something that you won't find even in entries like the Lexus LS by default. The Lexus LS 600 is the only one that gets a stitched leather dashboard. All the rest of them have stitched pleather. We have a leather section right here on the dashboard. You'll notice relatively moderate use of wood trim on this interior. We don't have wood trim going on here. It's all this piano black treatment. Underlighting right there for the cabin, more leather down here, and then we have a very large glove box right below that. Moving over to the center of the dashboard, we have a center channel speaker right up here because we do have a surround sound system by Lexicon. We also have speakers right over there in the corner of the dashboard. That's that small little triangle you see up there in the corner. And we have a 9.2-inch color LCD navigation system nestled right into the dashboard. This is not a touch screen like you'll find in some of the other Kia products. This uses a dial controller more like the rest of the luxury set. Below the screen, we do have our dual zone climate control up front. There's also a third climate zone for the rear. However, unlike most of the luxury vehicles in this segment, we don't have completely separate fans or air boxes in this vehicle. So you'll notice BMWs and Mercedes and Jaguars, they actually have the ability to adjust the fan settings independently for the driver and the front passenger, and frequently the rear climate zones as well. That's not possible in this particular system. Below that, we have our single slot optical disc player, eject button, display button right over here. And on this side, we have an interesting little option, and that's a reset button for this infotainment screen. I like that because in most vehicles, if you do have a problem with the navigation system and it does need to be reset, you frequently have to turn off the car, pull the fuse, and then that resets the system, and then you plug it back in. Here you can just press something right there in that little hole, and that will reset the system for you. For the infotainment system, we have the power button right over here, track forward, backward, direct access buttons for AM, FM, Sirius XM, and media, with a tune button right over here. If you want to know more about the infotainment system, then go ahead and click that link at the bottom of your screen. Moving down the center console, we have a storage cubby right over here with a 12-volt power outlet, auxiliary input, and of course an iPod USB input. I have an iPod cable plugged right in there. There is just barely enough room to put a small iPhone right in there and close the lid. Behind that, we have cup holders right back here. These are somewhat smaller than I had expected. You can easily fit a large takeout soda in this front one, but this one right behind it is a little bit smaller than that. It was a little bit difficult to fit a large soda right in there. On the left side of that, we have a shifter that should be very familiar to BMW shoppers. This is sort of a joystick arrangement. You press P for park, and then there's a unlock button right over here on the side. If you want to shift into drive, you press the unlock button and you pull down, goes into drive, push up for neutral, press and push forward for reverse. If we're in drive, then you simply slide over to the left for your manual mode, down for down, up for up. Even if you're in manual mode, you simply press P for park and the control will shift over there to the right. We have an electric parking brake, drive mode selector for eco, regular, or sport, and then we have the auto brake hold button right there. This will keep the pressure on the brake pedal when you come to a complete stop. Below those drive mode buttons, we do have the controls for the UVO infotainment system. These are very exaggerated buttons if you compare them to some of the Germans. It does make it a little bit easier to find the button, although overall I don't find this interface quite as intuitive as BMW's iDrive. We have a direct access button to the phone, home button in the system menu. These are contextual buttons for the buttons that are on the lower left and lower right side of the screen, menu button, back button, direct access button to UVO over there, map, and destination. Right back here we have the button for the power rear sunshade. This is the all-around and rear view camera button. It enables and disables. And then we have a snow mode button for the engine and transmission. Now, very much like modern Infinitis, we have an all-around camera system, and this is one of the best in the industry. I would rank this very similarly to what you find in the Infiniti products. We have several different options here. This is the all-around camera view right there with a forward view. If I were to put this car in reverse, we would get a backup view right there. And you can also select from several different views. You can get a full screen rear view right there. You can get the rear and the side of the vehicle for the left side, rear, and the right side of the vehicle to help you back into tricky parking spots. If we're in drive, this will swap over to the all-around view of the front. You can also, again, get a complete front view right like that. You can get a front and right side of the vehicle or a front and left side of the vehicle. Behind those controls, we have a softly padded center armrest. If we open that, we have a small divider tray there for small items, and then we have a moderately sized compartment with an extra 12-volt power outlet right there. Our particular model has the optional heads-up display, which is what we're taking a look at right now. You'll see right there in the center of the image we have a speed. Now, in addition to that, we also have lane guidance for the navigation system, cruise control information, and lane departure warning information, along with blind spot information. The blind spot information would be sort of on the right side of that screen. This is a full-color heads-up display, and overall I would rank this ahead of the systems by Cadillac as well as Lexus, but definitely behind the system from BMW. The BMW system has a little bit more information here, and you can also control the infotainment system via the heads-up display. Our model also has this reconfigurable 12-inch LCD instrument cluster. This is optional on the K900. It's not standard. By default, you get more traditional gauges. These are digital gauges right over here. So as I turn the car into sport mode, you can see that they change to digital readouts. We still get an analog display. There's a little line right over there starting at 0 and ending all the way up there at 160. That does climb around that way. Same thing goes over here for the tachometer. You'll notice we have a little line right over here just above 0, and that's because the car is idling. If we rev the car up, it will raise on up there towards 5,000 RPM, red line over there. The display is reconfigurable via this 5-way joystick right over here on the steering wheel, side to side, up, down, and press to OK. Using that button array on the steering wheel, we can control this display. We'll move on over here to settings. You can see right here we can adjust heads-up display settings. You can see what the heads-up display is going to contain, content selection right there. You can alter the size and the color of the speedometer, change its height and its brightness. Now we're going to choose display settings to change this display theme right here. We do have a default theme. We also have a retro theme that gives you a slightly different look to the instrument cluster. Personally, I prefer the default theme. We also have a basic trip computer over here, range by default, average right there in the middle, and we have a trip A and a trip B. Navigation, turn-by-turn instructions would be available right over there in between these two options if we had the navigation turned on and a destination set. Right here we have our lane departure information. We can turn the system on, off. Basic safety system information right there. We also have infotainment information, although we cannot use this display to actually interact with our infotainment source, so you can't change tracks, for instance, using this display right here in the middle. And then we can shift on over to our maintenance screen. You can see maintenance interval and tire pressure. Moving out past the instrument cluster, we have this 3-spoke steering wheel. Again, that 5-button module right over here for controlling that multi-information display. This button module over here is for the infotainment system, volume up, down, track forward, backward, and a mode button. We also have phone buttons down here, pickup up, hang up down, mute up, voice command down. This is our lane departure warning system right there. This button right here on the bottom is the heated steering wheel button, enable and disable. This button right over here is for the radar adaptive cruise control. This adjusts the distance, cruise enable, cancel, resume, and set. To the left side of the steering wheel, we have a button for the fuel door release. We also have a lever for the trunk. You pull it to open the trunk, and then you push it to close the trunk. This is a nice feature because you can close that electric trunk from inside the vehicle. Parking sensor enable disable button, blind spot warning system right there, heads up display enable disable button, and traction control enable and disable. If we move on out from that, over here on the driver's side door, we have our heated and cooled seat controls. Seat controls for the driver's seat. This is how you adjust the thigh cushion in the seat. Set button and memory buttons 1 and 2. Down here we also have power folding side view mirror buttons and our mirror controls, door locks, and window switches. The K900 has a large and accommodating trunk. This is a very large vehicle, so this is definitely more trunk than you'll find in a 5 Series or an E-Class. Right here I have a 26-inch roller bag, and the one nice touch, if I can zip this up, is you'll notice this trunk is also quite tall, so I can insert a 26-inch roller bag this way into the trunk. I was also able to insert child seats sideways, which makes this trunk a lot more convenient for people that have to carry around child seats back here. This is a 26-inch roller bag. Right here we have a 24-inch roller bag, and if I take these out of the trunk, you'll notice that we get a 10 out of 10 score when it comes to our exclusive trunk comfort index here at Alex and Autos. I also have a power trunk closer, which is a very nice touch. You can either close the trunk or close and lock the car. Now if you open this up, it may look like we don't have a spare tire initially because we just have this well that holds a jack, but we actually lift this double floor up, and then you'll see we have a temporary spare right down there below it. We also have the battery of the vehicle right over there on the right. This has been part 1 of a 2-part video on the K900. If you want to know how the K900 drives, how it's priced, how it stacks up against the competition, and what my final thoughts are on the K900, then go ahead and click that button down there and you'll be taken on over to that video.